Views and opinions expressed in this podcast and on our social media accounts do not represent that of the entire death industry. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any correction of errors, comments, concerns, or suggestions. Privacy is of utmost importance to us. All people and places mentioned in this podcast have been changed to protect the families we serve. This podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. Any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own discretion.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dying to Share. This is Barry.
This is Morty.
Gang's all here. No dog this time. So, hell of a start. I don't like doing the intros, clearly. I panic.
Struggle. So we were going to talk about...
Genealogy.
Yep.
Is the big one today. Which I think we brought it up in another episode. I didn't know funeral homes do genealogy.
Did you want to start with
I know,
thing?
but I'm just kind of...
I just didn't know if you were glossing
Oh, no,
over it.
I guess I'm in full panic mode here. I am scrambling.
You literally started clenching.
Mm-hmm. How's your week?
All right. My week wasn't too bad. It was pretty busy. We're on the up and up for getting busy. A lot of casketed burials. One that my boss, Freddie, fell into a grave on accident. Which would be wild if it was on purpose.
Yeah, that's a
so
bold
dramatic.
move.
Yeah.
I do want to know more about
was
this.
Boring. Let me jump into the grave.
Really
add
liven things up a
something.
little bit.
Yeah.
Always got to be the center of attention, that Freddie. Why? What happened? Because that's hard to do almost.
Yeah, it was definitely shocking.
Have you ever fallen in a hole?
Of course, yeah.
You have.
Same cemetery.
Maybe it's their problem.
That's
by the way,
that's why when I asked you about it,
not cemetery I work at, a different cemetery.
It was the cemetery you work at. It's okay.
No, let the record show a different cemetery. We
was
would
a
never do
different cemetery, that. Yeah. So, when this was a big family too, there was like 3 kids of the deceased, but she was one of 10, and she was the oldest, so she had all of her siblings were there besides one had already predeceased her. So, I mean, we had like at least 30 family members, plus whoever went and added on after the church. So I was technically off this weekend, but it was my families that I had met with. So when you meet families, you kind of want to be there, to kind of help and witness and make sure that everything goes to plan and
familiar
kind of
face.
Yeah, takes the pressure off of them. It takes the pressure off the other funeral director who didn't meet with them, doesn't really know the in and outs of the family. This family in particular was pretty tense, so that was another added layer to it. So I didn't go to the cemetery with them because I had to meet another family. I had to cosmetize somebody for calling hours. So this service ended up happening on Saturday, the one where Freddie fell in the hole. Mm-hmm. And then Sunday we had calling hours. So I was meeting a family to make sure the, what is it called? The slideshow with pictures worked and cosmetize that gentleman. So I had to leave. And when Freddie and everybody came back, he looked at me and he said, I fell in the hole.
Was his pants all dirty?
No.
Really?
Yeah, because it was the greens were covering.
Oh.
That's the whole problem.
The whole problem. I see what we did there.
The whole problem was, how sometimes so there's the headstone, right? Mm-hmm. And then the casket usually is, I don't know, 2 feet, maybe from the headstone, 1.5 from the headstone, and then we'll put the casket spray. So that's the flowers that go on top of the casket. We'll rest that on the headstone, so the funeral director can easily grab that and place it onto the casket. Mm-hmm. So he went to go grab. I don't know if it was the casket spray. I don't know if it was another piece of flour, but he went to go grab that piece of flour. Stepped on the green, thinking that there's a board there because there's typically boards that go parallel to the headstone and then parallel the other way, like lengthwise across the for the casket.
So what we do is we have a 4x4 that's like probably 6 feet long. We have those going perpendicular to the hole, and then we lay 2 larger boards that are probably they're about 8 to 10 feet long, and they're about maybe 6 inches wide, whatever it is, and they lay on top of the 4x4, so it's kind of like you're building up the area around it.
So you step on those boards. When we talked in the past about pallbearers, struggling to step onto the boards or fumbling to step on the boards, that's what we're talking about.
Is something like 4 to 5 inches up.
Yes, those are the boards. So they usually stack on top of each other, and then greens cover them. And the greens are those things
hide all the boards and
that look like grass, right? They hide the whole, so it just makes it look prettier, a little pretty.
It's a lot cleaner.
It can be hard to notice, especially when the cemetery guys or the vault guys aren't around, to tell you, hey, this grave is collapsing.
Yes.
And there's a hole here. Like, don't step in this area.
Which
right?
the graves do collapse. That is a common issue.
Because it's the ground. So that spot was covered, and he goes to step in it, and literally went straight down into the hole. I mean, my whole staff got back and said, nobody really saw it. One of my part-timers turned around and he was on pins and needles because he saw Freddie crawling out of the grave.
I can't believe he didn't. Well, yeah, if he had the greens, he wouldn't get dirty. But that's...
And nobody came, like the cemetery guys and the vault guy didn't come over and ask.
You okay?
Yeah, nothing.
Is that his first time falling in a hole?
I didn't ask because he was pretty rattled.
Was he?
Because he was embarrassed, like
understandably so.
It's an embarrassing thing. And then I guess he made kind of a joke out of it though, because usually once all of the flowers are placed, you tell the family, oh, you can get a little bit closer, folks. And then he went, you can get a little bit, not too close though.
Yeah. No, I know from my point of view, I always try to tell people, like, I know I've told Freddie, for example, like, hey, don't let anybody on this side.
Yeah.
If we have, like, there's been a lot of situations where one person, like one spouse, passes away, and then like 3 months later, the other spouse passes away, and they're side by side. So that first grave is like not loose
hasn't
dirt,
solidified.
Yeah, it hasn't like become one mass. So that usually collapses, and then you could. So I'm always like, hey, don't let anybody on that side, just for everyone's.
Well, and this
safety.
was the same cemetery where I was carrying. I think it was the foot end of the casket. So we had bearers on either side on the foot end, and they had, is it like a plexiglass? What is that kind of?
Oh, fiberglass?
Yeah, fiberglass. Yeah. Plexiglass.
Not plexiglass. No, I mean, you mean like what you put down to cover it so you don't get like muddy.
So sometimes there's fiberglass that covers mud or covers holes sometimes. Typically, like I said, a lot of the cemeteries will say, hey, this is covering a hole. Don't step there.
Yes.
This is, blah, blah, blah. So they did not say anything, and I was carrying the foot end, and the guys end up stepping up on these boards, and I step on the fiberglass board, and it was slippery because it was also muddy, which is why I thought it was down, was because it was raining. My foot slid underneath the device, in between the fiberglass board, and then all of the weight of everybody standing on the boards when they were trying to get off started, because they were coming towards me, started pressing onto my ankle. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we couldn't really get my foot. Like, we had to lift the device with the casket on it and then push on the fiberglass so my foot could maneuver its way out. All while the family was like walking over and I'm like on the ground. Same cemetery.
Because most cemeteries, they don't provide boards. Usually it's the vault dealer provide the boards, right?
I'm never there to see them.
Oh, that's true. I know we do, and I thought we were one of the few, or if
I've
the
seen
only.
the boards on the vault truck. So
yeah, I mean they always have boards and everything on theirs, and I think we're the only, maybe the other one out there west of us, maybe, but they have we have the greens, we have our own device, and we have that too. But I think most cemeteries just dig a hole and walk away. And say,
well, I think that they have greens and stuff, because if it's social service, typically.
Yeah, the vault guys do. I meant cemeteries.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the Catholic cemeteries might have that stuff too.
Okay, I'm not really sure, but you did tell me that Freddie fell in a hole like a good boy. I fallen in one hole, but without the family wasn't there.
I wasn't saying in front of the family.
No, it was not in front of the family. I've busted a knuckle.
Oh, he's so bruised and banged up. Like,
oh, was he bad?
Yeah, his wife not happy.
No,
not happy.
it happens, I guess. I don't know.
I mean...
It shouldn't.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? I mean...
Tell somebody. Don't just cover a...
Oh, no, I mean, I agree. But, like, is he going to, like, run up the flagpole? And
no, I think that but it's still, like... I think it's also still crazy that nobody came over and asked if he was, like, okay or offered any help at all, you know?
And the workers were there?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so Sunday, I had calling hours and super, super nice family, small family. He died unexpectedly, which was pretty crazy. They never figured out what was wrong with him. Yeah.
Really?
They ended up performing surgery on him without really knowing what was wrong with him. And it ended up causing him sepsis, and he got pneumonia in the hospital, and he got COVID in the hospital, and he just completely depleted. I mean, he was so emaciated. He had lost like 60 pounds over the last like 7 months. So their big thing was they wanted to make sure he didn't look emaciated. You know, he really looked sunken, you know, so I had to tissue build him, which is something I'm still learning kind of how to be comfortable with because it's pretty wild. It's basically like filler for your face, but after death, you know? And so, yeah, you have a needle and you place it in the certain parts of the face that need to be full. And you can sometimes push the fluid around, but then it ends up solidifying, you know, so it doesn't leak out of the hole. Yeah, so his eyes were sunken, his cheeks were sunken, his neck was super sunken. So
How old was he?
He was quite young. He was in like his 70s. I had to use a lot of tissue builder on him because I really wanted to make the family, like, their viewing experience really good. So I was nervous about that. And when both people that were viewed, the families were very pleased. So that was good.
Well, good job.
Yes. And then our service today went swimmingly. Nobody fell in a hole.
Good. That shouldn't be the bar. But
yeah, it was great. Yeah, the eulogy was really good. I love when a eulogy like starts to make me choke up.
Didn't you screw up in a church recently?
Yeah, that was on Saturday.
There's a real shit show.
Same service.
Man, they must be real proud of you guys.
They didn't notice.
No, I know, but like, what did you actually?
Besides the whole thing, they didn't notice.
That was kind of hard to ignore.
So, when there are pallbearers, right, that the family is providing.
Also, I want to just clear the air here. Morty told me she screwed up. I'm not hearing this through the grapevine.
Yeah.
I really sound like a real asshole. I just realized.
Yeah, it just the people need to know how you really are. So, when you have pallbearers, the reason why, like, if you've been to a funeral and the pallbearers sit with the funeral director at the mass, like at a church, it's because it's easier to direct them, right, than having the pallbearers mix in with their families. So say this is what happened, where my mind was so worried because it was a huge family and all of the pallbearers ended up being in the middle of their aisles.
Oh, that's not ideal.
So my mind was like, okay, I need to get these pallbearers out. I need to get the pallbearers out. So I get the pallbearers out and I get them situated. And now the aisle in this particular church is pretty small. So it fills, it's full when there are people standing and then the casket's in the center. So I walk by my boss and he whispers to me, we have to turn the casket still. Because we typically turn the casket and then get the pallbearers out.
Yeah, so when you go to a church, Catholic church, I guess, and you wheel the casket in, does the head go to the altar or does the feet go to the altar?
So if they're a regular person, their feet go to the altar.
Already what? Regular?
Yeah, regular person.
Okay.
If they're a priest, their head goes to the altar, so they are looking at their congregation.
Huh. So they're supposed to be like part of it. So okay, that makes sense.
They're supposed to be what?
Like they're part of like the congregation.
No, it's that they're looking at their congregation.
No, I'm saying like a regular.
Oh, so yes, they're looking at the altar. They're looking at Jesus on the cross. Yes. So we like to load our hearse very particularly. I don't know if this is just an us thing. I'm pretty sure a lot of funeral homes end up turning the casket before they exit the church.
So then he or she leaves. Feet first. Still.
Feet first, yeah.
Okay.
So we always load our hearse feet first, so we always know that they're coming out head first.
Oh, okay.
So when we go to the cemetery and we go, which way are we going? And they say head to the stone or head this way because there's no stone to indicate. we know exactly how we're coming out. Mm-hmm. We're not like, is this the foot end? Is this the head end? It's always the head end.
Yes.
So now, so because the aisle is kind of full, right? I have 3 guys standing on this side, 3 guys standing on the other side, and then the casket in the middle. I have to like shimmy by these 3 guys. So my butt is like rubbing up against all of these guys so that I can get to the foot end of the casket so that we can turn the casket. So yeah, it was your butt on a bunch of dudes. Yeah, it was basically just that was my screw up, was that we didn't turn the casket before getting the pallbearers up, and then I had to like grind on all of these guys as I was walking by them so that I could get the casket to the position I was supposed to be.
And then Freddie fell in a hole.
Wow. After I left, because I stayed at the church, cleaned up, and then went back to the funeral home to, obviously, like I said, meet the next family.
Did any of the seasonal guys, not seasonal, any of the part-time guys screw up?
We had a team meeting, so we try to do quarterly like staff meetings so that we can, I don't know, address certain things, because some people, it is usually a retired person's job that is working with us, right? So, I mean, it's not do or die to them. It's really just like some extra cash, and they see it as like a good, you know what I mean?
Social too.
Yeah, like social. It's a good thing to be doing. You know, you're helping these families. Sometimes they like might lose sight of that, and it's just like annoying to them, or you know what I mean? It's bothersome, especially when we get 3 calls right in a row and they're working 5 days in a row and they're like, this is a full-time job and this is not what I wanted.
No, I mean,
so it's difficult. Yeah. And it's really hard to gauge that with them too. Like, listen, your job is to make my job easier. It's like literally the whole part. So if I'm having to answer a million questions 4 times in a row, or if you're arguing with me, it makes my job not easier. So it's really difficult. Like, I had part-timers, so afterwards we all go back to the funeral home and kind of tidy everything up. Now, obviously the following day we had another service. So, you know, fill the waters, fill the candy dishes, clean up whatever flowers, so that people that have to come in tomorrow just have to spot vacuum really quick. If there are flowers, help me like get them into the room so that I can arrange them correctly. Just empty the trash cans, like little shit, right? Mm-hmm. One of our part-timers was like, okay, anything else before I go, boss? And I like, looked at him and I was like, well, the waters could be filled and the candy could be filled. And he goes, well, they look all right. They're not too low. And I said, okay, so they can be filled, you know? And I'm like, and nor do I want to talk to 70-plus-year-old people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes a boss has to talk to people. Because I understand, this is your part-time job. This is like extra pocket cash. It's not
the hobby. Not hobby, but yeah,
it's just something on the side. So it's really difficult for me to be like, do you fucking care? Do you care?
Probably.
I would assume so, but sometimes I think that they just
probably get burnt out.
Yeah, they get annoyed, and they're like I said, a little older. So it's,
I mean, I'll speak from a little bit of experience here. Like, yeah, when I do a funeral, I don't always think of like the magnitude of what I'm doing. It's just like, yeah, we gotta get this over with. I got a meeting afterwards. Got a family coming in. Oh, come on, you know, I do lose sight of what we're actually doing.
Yeah, we have an important purpose. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that gets lost, right? It really does.
Yeah, you get, like I always say, you get like desensitized to it.
Yeah, I think that most of the time I really like to be present. Mm-hmm. I think I'm a pretty present person in anything in life. So I don't ever feel like I lose sight of that. I think that it's also, I'm pretty new to it, and I'm more exposed than you are in a sense. Like, I actually like witness these families grieving quite often.
We don't. Only time I see them is if they buy a grave ahead of time.
Yeah, I'm physically handling a body, so I think that it's harder for me to lose sight of the magnitude and the impact that we can have. And that's why sometimes it's really hard to connect with my friends who are, you know, working office jobs or doing other things that maybe if the world were to end, you know, if the system started to collapse, their jobs would be pushed to the side. Mm-hmm. Like my job,
COVID.
Yeah, my job would not be pushed to the side. You know,
were you a funeral director when COVID broke
I
out?
was not. I was in school.
Yeah. See, I wasn't in this industry either.
Yeah.
I was in
Thank goodness, because I've heard the horror stories.
Yeah, I know Bernie was saying we did 40 more than our average that year, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
I had to yell at him too. At one point.
For doing too much?
No, because he got COVID, and the whole all the cemetery staff got COVID, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go in tomorrow because I got a funeral." I'm like, "You can't." He's like, "Yeah, well, how am I gonna do it then?" So he called. Actually, I think it was with you guys, and he called the funeral home and talked to the family, and the family was screaming at him. And he was like, all I can do is, so he went in before everybody else did, dug the grave by himself, disinfected the whole cab of the backhoe, and then went home and told the other employee who was relatively new, who couldn't dig a hole yet, and just was like, this is your first one by yourself. You're going to have to do it because...
Well, he didn't have to dig it, though, right? He just had to
No, but
fill
he still had to, fill it by himself. He had to lead the funeral up and do all that stuff all by himself, which he'd never done before. But it was...
It's all right.
It was...
Everybody's got to do something.
It was the funeral home, and that family was screaming at him. And he's like... Yeah, he was not happy camper.
Yeah, it's something that is really difficult because... Although we always talk about, it's the worst day of your life, but it's a Tuesday for us, it's also still the worst day of somebody's life. And our whole job is to be gracious and understanding and accommodating. You know what I mean? At our own expense is really what it is. It's hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's a big part of why people don't understand what we do, and maybe why people are the way they are. Like, oh, funeral directors are so closed off. It's like, I just got a million things going through my head, and I buried a baby today, and then I did an embalming, and they pooped everywhere. And then I got yelled at from a family because the cemetery can't do the burial, and
not our cemetery.
Huh?
Not our cemetery.
just encompassing.
No, I know.
Just encompassing. So it's hard to sometimes connect with people because they're like, which, not to diminish anybody else's job, obviously there are stressful things that happen in an office.
Of course. or
meeting a deadline for something can obviously be stressful to anybody. But when it's literally life-changing, in a sense, or I could join the military and still have a job because the MORT team, the world, like I said, could be collapsing, and there are always going to be dead bodies that need to be respectfully taken care of. Yeah.
So good week then.
Yeah. So how was your week?
Good.
Anybody fall in any holes?
No, no one fell. One of our guys fell, but I was on the ice. He's fine. No problem there. But we have the guys from Matthews there today, working on our...
Can you explain what Matthews is again for the folks that maybe don't remember?
So that is the manufacturer of our crematory retorts.
And they're the same Matthews that does caskets?
Yes. Yep. Back in December, I believe it was, they do their yearly inspection on our machines, and just to make sure everything looks good, and we pay for it because we don't really want to fix the thing, so we're a little...
Do you have to pay for the inspection?
Yeah, it's part of their yearly service.
Okay.
But they give the whole machines a once over and check all the spark plugs and
spark plugs.
Yeah. And check all the bricks and everything to make sure it's running tip top. We usually send an email to the funeral home saying, "Hey, we're going to be shut down for a day or so. So just to give you guys a heads up." And then I found out today from talking to Morty here, they don't always get that message.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of funny. So I'm like, I always kind of suspected that. But Freddie dropped off a case today.
Two.
And he was like, I'm like, hey, just so you know, you're not in a major rush, right? He's like, well, I need it by Thursday.
Would that be a major rush to you?
No, because we had 48 hours to do it. Today's Monday, so we have 48 hours to do it anyway. So that's not that's just, we had to do it before that anywho. He's like, oh, you guys are shut down? And I'm like, yeah. I remember thinking well, I guess he didn't read that email, or he wasn't given that email. But I guess
that's why I suggested that maybe you get.
Well, we were
actually
never
the funeral director's email instead of the office email.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever actually had his email, but I could get it very easily, obviously.
Or just all of the funeral directors, because then, you have their direct contact via email, too.
Yeah, and we can... I'm sure we can manage that. But they came in and they said the machines look good, but they both needed new valves, 2 different valves. But the machines could operate with its current state. One of the valves was stuck open, so it was just allowing air in constantly, which is not a problem. It might take a little longer to warm up and things like that.
Costs more.
It probably just costs a little bit more. But they showed up today. And the guy fixed one of our machines, and then he needs parts for the other one, which is, I've explained this before. Matthews, the techs are wonderful. Great guys. HQ, not so great.
Well, which is something interesting that you were talking about earlier, was that the techs travel all over.
All over literally the world. Not even just like the eastern seaboard or western, they don't have territories. From what I understand, they just go around the world. And
do you have the same tech usually or different?
We had
techs?
this guy. It's the second time getting this guy. And Bernie already said he wants to request him every time, just because he's actually a funeral director, as well as a...
he's still licensed?
Still licensed. Mm-hmm. Different state than ours. But he flew up this morning. Matthews sent their stuff to us. Then we got it today, which I don't understand. Why not just send it out?
Especially they were supposed to have it they were supposed to do this last week, weren't they?
No, I was supposed to do it Wednesday. So they called us last week and said...
they're supposed to do it this Wednesday.
Supposed to do it this Wednesday. And they called and said, can we do it Monday because we had a cancellation? So we said, sure. So we got a package today around 10, 11 o'clock, which was the part. So we were like, oh, good to go. Why not just send the part out ground when we make the appointment? Like months ago. Like we really made the appointment in like December. I don't understand why they just didn't.
So if you're in HQ from Matthews.
Yeah, let me know, because I don't understand it. And then they didn't get everything. So now they got to mail it out tonight. And the tech's just going to sit there in the crematory hanging out until that new piece comes. It just seems wildly inefficient.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I understand things come up, so maybe they didn't know they needed that part.
Yeah, we don't understand systems.
Right,
which
I mean? I'm
what if the parts are super hard to get? What if they make them? They make them as they come in?
Could be.
To order?
But I remember just thinking, like, why did you ship this? But every time we've done this, we had to get new chains for the doors. They sent one, and we needed 2. And they had to ship it overnight again, and the guy had to sit there. I'm like, this just seems... Why not just send it by ground, like a month before? I could see it was like this huge... Maybe check with us so you guys can hang on to this, right? But the box was just like a small, not very big box at all. So I just...
Anything else going on besides Matthews?
No.
No burials?
We almost had a burial on Friday with you guys, but then we found out it's a different cemetery.
Which, honestly, this kind of works into the topic
today.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. Look at that.
Full circle.
Yeah. I'll just do a quick overview of ours, or the situation. We had you guys call us about a burial, and the mother, you gave us the name. So that's usually what happens, is when you get like the mother or the parent's name, and you said you want to be on near the mother or the father or on the family lot. So they gave us a name, and the name wasn't like a Smith or a Jones or a Thomas. It was a very specific name.
Yeah, it wasn't a very common
name. No, but it was, yeah. So, but the first name was somewhat specific, nothing crazy. And we had an individual with that name buried in our cemetery.
And the same last name.
Same last name, same first name.
Mm-hmm.
So one of your other funeral directors, who I think we were going to call Eddie.
Yes.
Not Freddie, somebody else. He showed up because he wanted to get a picture of the headstone, because they wanted to know if they should bury on top of the mother, who's already deceased. The burial is going to be ashes. Or use a full grave, but they'd have to buy a headstone for it. And I guess that headstone's going to be pretty expensive. So they said, can we just engrave on the mother's name? So we went up there with Eddie, and he took a picture of it. And then he called back and said, our death year and the death year you have on your stone are different.
So the mom's name was the same too?
Mom's name, first and last name, was exactly the same. So our office manager, who's leaving, did some research and found it in a different cemetery, the one next door to us. And so this it had to be a cousin, or it had to be some sort of relation, because the last name is so specific. It's
very niche. We've never even taken care of another family member from it, you know what I mean? Recently, at least.
So we almost had a situation where we buried someone in the wrong spot. Yeah. So
it's also very difficult, because you guys, there's a cemetery that your guys is one name, and this other cemetery is literally the same, but with an addition of
slightly different. Yes. Yeah, and
a lot of families get confused.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to speak too bad. Our cemetery's old, and this one is not as old, and they've had some issues. I'll just leave it at that. They've had some issues over the years, and people think it's us who are having these issues. And it is not. And, the news has been...
What are some of the issues?
Come on.
Why not?
I don't think it's... You don't think
this is what people are listening for, no? What are some issues that a cemetery might have?
I know, but it's so... Okay, well, they've had some financial issues. Just having money to operate.
How does that happen?
It could happen in a multitude of ways. I'm not making any accusations.
I'm just saying, what are some of the ways?
So, the money always doesn't make it to the bank.
So what does that mean?
I am not. Oh man, you really.
This is what the people want to hear.
I know, but it just so.
There's going to be an episode where I sit down and talk about all of the bullshit that funeral homes have. We're going to talk about, national stories and stuff like that, because a lot of it is funeral homes. So we'll talk about that. So cemeteries also have...
Yeah, we're not all perfect.
Exactly.
I was told that this cemetery, over the many, many years of operation, they haven't always... a lot of money went into different pockets, not always the pockets of the cemetery. They also have never set up an investment. Mm-hmm. So the money that does go into their checking account or savings account is getting that, 0.001% interest on a savings account, maybe 1%, but that's probably very high. Our money is invested into the market. We have our own separate checking account. We have our whole investments that keep, every burial we do, we invest money from it. Every lot sale we do is 15% that goes into this big fund. So I don't think that always happened at this other cemetery.
And then what about their record keeping?
Yeah, I was getting to that.
Their genealogy.
Allegedly, I believe there was a fire, I was told, I think, and they lost all their records. So I've heard horror stories of someone passes away and they have a deed and says, I own these 2 graves. They start digging and they hit somebody and say, who's that? And they go, oh. And then they move over and start digging again and they hit somebody.
Yeah.
And they just keep popping holes until they find an open spot and say, oh, here you go. And that terrifies me because that just sounds like a
nightmare.
Yes, the definition of a nightmare.
And there are times, I don't know if there's many of our listeners will really resonate with this. People want specific locations. They want to be under that tree.
Oh, they mostly want to be near their loved ones.
Okay.
But that's another, some people, I've had people say the wildest things, like, I want to be in the shade. Or, no, I don't want any shade. I was always cold my whole life. I want to be in the sun.
Yeah.
I've heard
I want
everything.
This specific view. Mm-hmm. So
I've heard that all the time.
When you buy, say you go to that cemetery and you're like, I want this spot. And they're like, okay. And then you buy it, and then you're actually 30, 40 feet up the road.
Yes. I don't know. Yeah, so it's not so great.
Is it ethical? Is it unethical?
I mean, you have to do something for the family. I don't know what you do.
Now, say that happens, right? They lost, say it's all true, where they had the fire and they lost all of those records. How do they go and remap so that they're not running into this issue?
Yeah. They can buy some sort of, I don't know if sonar is the right word, but I know they make that like a ground scanner. Mm-hmm. It won't tell you who's there.
But
they'll tell you that something is there or somebody is there. That's why we have these corner posts that we have to find every time we lay out a grave, because it tells who's buried here. We have the maps. I always say our cemetery is very fortunate that we were set up this way from when we opened, and we don't have any issues of finding people. You know, I've screwed up once, and we started digging and hit somebody, and then I looked at the map again. I go, shit, I'm 4 feet off. We moved 4 feet over, and it was
perfect.
And that was my mistake. That wasn't the cemetery not having good records. It's me being a dope. And that was like my second year. So, but record keeping is extremely important, and that ties into genealogy.
Yes,
because everyone or a lot of people are getting into genealogy big time. And
especially, I think, since the 21andMe and
Ancestry
all that stuff
and all that stuff
popped off. So you're like, holy shit, I'm related to so and so, and they're buried right up the road.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go see them, and I want to go. You know, people don't think of going to a cemetery for that information. They mostly want to see the grave. But you know, I'll once again speak for my cemetery here. We started, I think it was in the 20s, like 1920, is when we started including clipping out of the newspaper, the obituaries. So if you're buried in our cemetery like in the 30s, 40s, there's a decent chance that if we have our folder that has the lot number on it, we can have an obituary for your loved one in there.
Now, for the ones that have passed away today, do you guys just go online and print off the obituary from the website? So what if it's not online, but it's in the paper? Or vice versa?
I don't think we get the paper anymore.
Okay.
But most I won't say every, but most of them are
online. Yeah, online. It's true, but I was just curious.
That one community you guys serve, they don't have anything, do they?
You're talking about our Russian community?
Yes.
They typically do not. Some of the like newer generation has been, just because they're becoming a little bit more Americanized, I guess you could say. But
they just do it on the website,
They do it on the website typically, yeah.
Yeah. But we print all that out, and we just put it in the folder. We have some relatively big, local leaders, local famous folk. So if there's like a newspaper article dedicated to that person, 20 years after they pass away, or, remembrance, or if they're in a magazine, we put
like the VP? You have a lot of the ones on the VP?
On the VP. He's got a huge folder now because there's been so many stories written on the guy that's all in his folder.
Do you guys still open that mausoleum?
I was in it for the first time last year. Oddly enough.
Because wasn't it, I had a service right near it. And they
opened it.
Yeah, they opened it.
I
didn't get to go inside, though, because I didn't want to be like a weirdo, because there's so many people.
Well, that's why I didn't go in either. But the great, I think it's two greats.
It's a casketed mausoleum?
Yes. I think it's two greats. He is a board member. Is it
below?
Huh?
Is it in the ground?
No, it's above.
It's above.
Yeah, it's a walk-in mausoleum. I think there's 9 or 10 people are in there. I think can fit that many. It's all marble on the inside. It's pretty nice. The board member, he's like, "Oh, you never been in there?" I go, "No." He's all right. Let's go up there. And he's got a key on him at all times. And we went up there and he opened it up for me. It's very nice.
Yeah.
But going over to you, I didn't know you guys have a record. I'm sure you have your own genealogy as well.
We legally have to, because I'm sure that yours has nothing to do with legality. Like, I'm sure you guys probably always need to have some type of records too of who's there, right? Where the funeral homes. I don't know if this is a national, like if it's a national law, or if it's a state by state, but I'm pretty sure it's universal, like 10 years that you keep like vital statistics and like records on the person. Financials, I think, is 3 years. So
do you throw out the ones past 3 years
for financials? Yeah, typically we don't, and especially now it's everything is digitalized.
Oh,
so a lot of our stuff is digitalized. That our office manager worked on getting everything. I think she has them up until like the 90s digitalized. Since Freddie's uncle opened the business, or it was his grandpa. I don't know why I said uncle.
To say, I don't think it was.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to correct
you. It was his grandpa opened the business. They have records from back then. They weren't as good as keeping records, so it's probably a little botchy or botched. Is botchy a word?
I don't think so. I think it's a game. Bocce ball?
Now you can tell my ethnicity. So yeah, he doesn't have like a ton of them, but once his dad started taking over, they became very, very good at keeping records. So we have records from, the 40s, the 50s, whatever, upwards. Yeah, and we keep all of the obituaries, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is, so we use a program called MIMS, which is a pretty also universal.
MIMS?
MIM, M-I-M-S.
Oh, M-I-M, MIM.
Yeah,
okay.
MIM.
That was N, MIMS.
MIMS. I think it's like mortuary information, something.
Software?
Yeah.
Management?
Probably. Okay. Something of the sort.
Okay.
And there's different kinds.
Right. I'm sure. Yes. I know I've been in these conferences. There's so many different cemetery databases too.
Yeah. Yeah. MIMS is pretty popular though. So it's basically like everybody has their own like account. You put their picture in. If they had an obituary, you put the picture in. You put all of their vital statistics. You put like who the next of kin was, the informant, basically who we were working with, all of their information. You can attach all of the cemetery records, all of the vault records, the crematory certificate if they were cremated. The death certificate mock-up. Like everything from that file basically gets scanned and put into this database for that person, so I can pull up the financials or anything. We use it a lot actually. So say like somebody came in today, which was really weird because we haven't had a walk-in like when somebody comes in and goes, "Hey, my so-and-so died," and usually they call. Mm-hmm. Like I don't think that I've ever really experienced a walk-in to tell us, and today we did. So this gentleman walked in and told us that his sister had passed away. She's at the medical examiner's, and he doesn't really know what he wants to do, so he needs to talk to a couple of his family members, but we took care of his parents. So Freddie went on the database and looked up what his parents did and printed off the financials, printed off all of the information, and, they were cremations with service at the funeral home. So
can I just walk in and request that information? Or do I need to show that I'm part of that family?
You typically so I think legally at some point it becomes public information. Mm-hmm. But
I know it does for cemeteries. I didn't know if it was for you guys.
Yeah, I think... Is it after 50 years?
I know it's instant.
Oh, really? For you guys, yeah. It becomes... See, we don't do that. You have to be a part of the family.
Now, we could say, if someone is still alive and, say who owns that lot, we don't have to say who owns it. But if someone comes in, looking for Joe Blow, we have to say this is where he's buried, which it all becomes public record.
Yeah.
When they
did the find a grave.
Well, when they pass, when they, are buried, then it's public record.
Yeah, like people will call us and be like, "How did so and so die?" And I'm like, "Dude,
yeah, that we don't.
I cannot tell you that."
Yeah. I mean, that I understand, but I didn't know if I could walk in there tomorrow and say, "Oh, can I look up once again Joe Blow?" Because I know he.
What would
went
you
with
be looking up? What would you be asking? Like that, I guess that would determine.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think. So
like if somebody came in, if somebody called us, right? So we get a lot of people that call. And are like, "Hey, just found out that my great uncle was taken care of by you guys, and I'm trying to figure out where everybody's buried." You know, like maybe this will, we can tell you the cemetery, right. Or if like, "Oh, my best friend's blah, 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 husband was taken care of." We can tell you the cemetery because it's public record.
What if somebody is like out of town? Not like, I'll say estranged, let's use that as an example, and say, "Oh, I want to see how my uncle died." Who paid for it? I
would say, they wanted to see who paid for the services.
Yeah, because I want to, it could be a family tiff. I'm making all this up, obviously.
Yeah, I've never experienced somebody asking.
Yeah, I know it's oddly specific.
Who paid for it? Yeah. I say, he died or she died at this specific hospital in the area that we are. So that means it's in this county. Mm-hmm. And so you have to go to the city clerk or the town clerk and receive that information. It's going to be, $10, $15. And, if you are able to acquire it, good for you.
Because I would imagine some people could call and say like, "Oh, one of my best friends. I just found out they passed away."
Yeah, and they're lying.
Well, I was thinking that or being like, "Oh, he was why was he cremated? Oh, I know he never wanted to be cremated."
Oh, people say that all the time. Yeah.
I'm just making that up. I'm
No,
sure
but people
are
do
nosy
that.
too. Obviously.
Yeah. What do you mean there was no services?
Yeah.
People do that all the time.
Okay. But do you get a lot of people walking in or doing not walking in, but I meant like doing
we
genealogy?
Get a lot of phone calls, yeah.
But that's like just
it's pretty specific to family stuff, right? So it's like somebody moved out of the state and they're like I said, great uncle or great grandpa. I noticed they were buried or they were taken care of through your family. Are you able to see where they were buried? Mm-hmm. Are you able to see what year they died? Because I mean, back then you can't look up the obituary online, right? Like if they passed away since like I don't know 2001, probably you can find their obituary online.
Right.
You can type in their name and find it online.
Do you provide copies?
Yeah, if we have it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, if they come in, or if sometimes we mail things to people.
Do you charge them?
No.
Because I know some cemeteries we've been to, they charge for genealogy. Because, which I understand, you're taking, people walking in, especially in the summertime, they want to do genealogy. So they come in with a list of, say, 10 names and say, "Do you have any information on these people?" So then the office manager is pulled away from her job, which is, doing, not her job, but doing other parts of her job to help these people out. And
I was going to say, well, this is kind of a part of the job.
No, yeah, it definitely is. I'm taking away from a different part of the job.
Yeah.
And then they have to print out a bunch of things. And I know some cemeteries charge per piece of paper provided. We currently do not do that.
But you're in the workings of doing that.
No, So what we do is we started doing this online, is doing a genealogy page on our website that people can just message on the website, and then we can get to it whenever we can. So it's not like...
Do a lot of people message?
Yes. But we ask on there for a donation. But
how often do they give a donation?
Not all the time. But it's one of those things where it's like, we're never going to not tell somebody if their loved one is buried at our cemetery. Somebody else want to know, is my great aunt, she died this year, or this certain year in 1943, is she buried on up at your cemetery? We'll say yes, she's buried on this lot and this grave. You know what I mean? Like things like that. But they say, "Oh, can you have your obituary?" Then we might say, "Okay, yeah. Can we get a little bit of a donation?" But we tell them to answer their questions. But when they go a little farther, but when they start asking for more things, then we might ask. But if they do it in person, usually we don't ask for anything.
Yeah. It's relatively pretty easy for us to get if we have the obituary. I mean...
Yeah, most people want the obituary. They want a copy of the lot card.
And like I said, the obituaries that we have on record typically are accessible online, too. Yeah. So, for you guys, it's a little different.
Yeah, now ours aren't all on the website or online. But we also keep all of the correspondence with the family. So there might be an issue in 1948 where they were complaining about they wanted to plant a bush, and then the bush got overgrown after 10 years, and the cemetery mailed them saying the bush has got to go. We have all those correspondence as well.
Do you have people come in and look through the old books that have how people died?
Yep. Yeah,
so that's all public record, too?
It's all public record, yep.
Died of dysentery.
A lot of dysentery.
Died of overconsumption.
A lot of dropsy or dripsy. I think it's dropsy. Don't ask me what it is. I called you much worse than that. Trains took out a lot of people too. Mm-hmm. Things like that. But that's all. That was all before HIPAA. So that's all just written out in this big book of ours.
In cursive.
Very fancy.
Gen Z can't even read it.
I know. It is really.
I think that they could.
You think so?
I do. I do think it's still kind of taught.
I don't think it's taught at all.
I think it depends on the teacher.
Oh, well.
I have friends that are teachers and they still teach cursive.
Well, they should. God damn it.
Anyway, way off topic.
We've had people come from other countries doing genealogy. They always call ahead of time and just say, "Hey, is so-and-so buried here?" And we go, "Sure. Yes." like, oh my God, I'm finally coming over from Ireland in June. Is there a time are you guys open to? And yeah, well, we usually give them a tour and everything, and they're usually pretty excited about it. But yeah, we've had a bunch of different countries come in. England.
You guys should have a little guest book.
That's not a bad idea. It's a little late now. We could,
like a hotel.
I guess, yeah. Airbnb.
Yeah. We went to a restaurant kind of up north from where we live now, and it was like a diner, and it was this cute little diner owned by this guy, and he had a map, and then underneath was a guest book, so people put pins where they were from, like because there were people from all over, and then they would be able to sign their name in the guest book, and I thought it was so cute.
You ever hear of Mitch Hedberg?
Nope.
He's a comedian, and
shout out.
Well, he's dead, but
R.I.P.
One of the jokes he told me is not told me.
I was gonna say,
I don't know that he said in one of his specials was, I want to put a map of all, and put pins for all the places I go to, but I have to go to the corner of the world first so the map doesn't fall.
Stupid.
That's stupid.
Could use tape.
You don't need to shoot holes in Mitch Hedberg's joke. Anywho, but no, cemeteries and I guess funeral homes are, a really good spot for genealogies.
If you're looking for information about like older, I'm not saying, like, we're not saying every cemetery, every funeral home has good records, especially like we get a lot of questions like, we've bought other funeral homes, right? So what happens to those records? Depending on the funeral home, they keep those records so that they're accessible. Other funeral homes might ditch them because they're like, I don't want more stuff. When I first started, we got rid of like, I think it was 300 pounds of records. That was all financial records from back when, like,
from families or your.
Yeah, so family. So it's basically the itemizations.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like your financial records of how good the month of May was or something.
It probably was some of that too, but a lot of it was the itemizations. So it's like from back when Freddie's dad was still around, I think that they went up until like the 60s and 70s of stuff we were getting rid of.
How'd you dispose of it?
We went to this company out here and they shredded.
Oh, okay.
And then they turn it into, I think, toilet paper.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're probably wiping your booty butt with it.
There's a bunch of free things online too. Mm-hmm. Like there's a website for cemeteries called Find a Grave. That's a free website. I'm assuming it is.
Yeah.
And it's just all it's all volunteers, and we use it in our cemetery a lot. You can put GPS coordinates in. You can get pictures of the headstone. Put the obituaries on there. Some have the lot cards and things like that. Mm-hmm. And even just the stone has some really good information on it. Not so much the newer ones, but the old stones.
Dude, I can't wait to have the monument
Rocky,
dealer. Yeah.
Maybe?
Rocky, Monty, whatever his name is going to
be.
Whatever he picks.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to know his opinion so bad about the new age kind of monuments.
Cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend, I showed you it, was like insanely lovely monument where it was like a statue. Because a lot of back in the day too, they would do statues. They wouldn't just do headstones. They would have statues in their family lot. And it was a statue of this couple, and he's combing her hair. And then on the statue it says like, to love, to passion, to Deb. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, that man loved his wife. Whew.
Yeah.
Just impressive. And the stone itself was impressive. Yeah. Just the inscriptions or the epitaphs, right? That's what they're called, epitaphs.
Oh, sure.
That people used to have, about themselves or about their loved one was just so beautiful, like poetic. Now it's just Brian, 1906, 2020
Yeah.
Wow, he lived a good life.
Holy moly, he had a good life. He had a good run.
But yeah, we don't know anything about it because it's not on the stone at all.
Yeah. That's why, like, if you go in our old section, some it says, born here, did business here, died here. married so and so. She's from here.
Yep, married on this date.
Yeah, it has like
It's
a
almost
whole,
like an obituary.
Yeah, it's got like their whole life just summarized on one. It's a good sized stone, obviously.
Yeah.
But no, that's
so in our notes. It does say you wanted to tell a story about a guy buried in the wrong spot.
Oh no!
When we talked about this.
Yeah, we didn't. We kind of hinted.
You had a
at
very
it.
specific story though, that you said you didn't want to tell me about until we got on the podcast and talked about this.
That. It's so funny because I just talked today about it with Bernie.
Wow!
Because of what happened with Eddie. Well, with Eddie.
Oh yes.
The same situation. Well, a very similar situation happened. This was before Bernie was superintendent. This is probably in the 80s. I think they had pretty basic names, which is a bit, really insulting somebody. But they had, like, I'll say Mary Smith and Joe Smith. Joe died. The funeral home probably called looking for Mary Smith. And long story short, they buried next to the wrong Mary Smith. On a whole different plot, both within our cemetery, though. 30, actually, it was right before I started, so it could have been like 40, 50 years later. A great-grandchild is doing genealogy and was like, who is this buried next to my great-great-grandmother? And they're like, oh, that's the grandfather. And he's like, that's his name. That's his name. That's the same middle name. It's around the same year.
But not exactly the same year.
No, it was the same year, but different month. I should have asked Bernie, because he knew. Like I said, it's so weird. We're just talking about this. It was the same year, but different month. It might have been like June 5th, and it was like May 5th. It was like something like really, really close. So after looking at all the records, my father was like, yeah, nope, you're right. This is buried in the wrong spot. So
they had to switch the guys?
I don't think anyone was ever buried next to the actual wife. There was still an open grave there. So when I first started back in 21, I had a topsoil. We had topsoil and clean up the area, so I just missed it. But Bernie did a disinterment with permission from this great-great-grandchild and everything, and didn't charge the family or anything because he discovered the issue. And because it never left our cemetery, we didn't need a funeral director present to do so.
Did he remove the vault? Was the vault still intact?
Yeah, it was.
Was there a vault back then?
There was a vault. So I want to say it was like in the 80s, 70s or 80s. So it wasn't like it was like in the 50s or anything. I don't think, at least. But there was a vault, and he dug him up, moved him over, and did a burial over there, and then had to fill in the other hole. But that was all because of genealogy. That actually found out one of our mistakes after I just told the
Was
whole
his
family.
name on the stone? What did they end up doing about the stone?
He had his name was on the stone and everything.
The same stone as her, or was it a different headstone?
I think it was like a monument, and it had both their names on it.
So did they have the wrong guy's name and dates? Did they have to take care of the monument?
I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
I don't know that detail.
We'll circle back.
Because I know...
Call Papa right now.
When I talked to Bernie, he just said that where they moved the individual to, their name was on the headstone. So maybe their name wasn't on the headstone on the original one?
But then how would the kid have known that somebody was there?
Because of our records. Our lot cards said who's buried there.
Oh, so he went and looked at the actual...
Yeah, because he came in and do a genealogy, and he's pulled up the name and said, oh, he's buried here.
So maybe there was no headstone.
That's the only thing I could think of, is that he pulled him up and said, oh, he's buried here.
Just chainsaws the headstone.
I'm just going to slide this over, don't mind this. But no, that's the only thing I could think of, is that he did the genealogy, and he showed him the lot card and said, no, I don't know why he's buried here. It should be over on this side. Either way, that's the power of genealogy.
Well, and didn't something happen with a baby, too? You were telling me that your dad potentially buried a baby on the wrong lot.
He did. Man, now I think about it, we have screwed up. This is all, decades in between. That was when
Well, it happens.
That was when my father first started. He buried a baby on the wrong lot.
Once again, was pretty
I think it was a similar name again, and he
damn Smiths.
Yeah, goddamn Smiths or Williams or whatever.
Or Johnsons,
Jones.
Too many of you.
Thomases. I think he just had to move him and say he did it in front of the family, and he had to eat crow the whole time. And he apologized up and down 100 times, but the family was not thrilled, understandably so.
Yeah.
But that was when he first started. So, unfortunately, I've noticed I've screwed up a couple times, and because of that, I really do try to learn from my mistakes. But
have you ever buried somebody in the wrong spot?
I told you
personally,
that, yeah. But we never got to the burial part.
Okay, so no. The answer is no.
Okay, no. Then I guess no is the answer. I do know a couple of them that are. We put ashes on the wrong side of a stone, but then we moved it back the next day. That was once again, I wasn't there for that, but I remember helping move afterwards. The guy, when we buried him, the individual who worked for us thought it was a headstone, not a footstone. So they did it on the wrong side of the slant marker. Because then I'm like, he showed me, he's like, is this in the right spot? I go, no, it should be on our side. He goes, that's what I thought. We're going to move this. I said, okay.
He said, nobody's going to know.
Actually, it was Freddie.
Really?
Freddie called him out, but was like, buried here? And he's like, oh, yeah. And it was not. But we fixed it. Man, now that you're calling me out on all of our things we screwed up here, aren't we?
Well, we got to take ownership.
Yeah.
It's a part of it.
I've messed up. Yes.
On our list, it says something about community outreach if needed. Do you know?
Why do we write that?
Yeah. Do you know anything about that?
The only thing I could think of is if you go back, if I was mentioning the find a grave.
Do you want to do a break so that we can edit that out or no?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Nah, they don't. No, it's peek behind. We have notes that we sometimes follow.
Peek behind the curtains.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of we wrote that was because of find a grave. That's all. So you can do volunteer work doing genealogy just to be a nice guy or gal.
You can also volunteer to clean headstones.
You could do that too, but we're staying on genealogy. But you can become a member. If there's a cemetery that say that you guys go to regularly to walk around and you really enjoy the cemetery, you could see if they'll let you do find a grave, which is they put in requests for names. You go in there and you find the information. You take pictures of the headstone. You can put the GPS coordinates for them, and it'll be on their website. And that's all volunteer work. So I know I'm technically a volunteer on Find a Grave. I think I've only done a dozen or so.
How do you become
entries.
a volunteer?
You've got a sign up on the website, and then you'll start getting requests. And you could pick what cemeteries you want to do.
Oh, people will send you requests?
Yeah.
Requests.
Not to me specifically.
Speech issue.
Not to me specifically. Just to anybody who would do our cemetery. So I could see it. I know for ourselves, we do wreaths for around Christmas time to families who they buy them. They bought in perpetually, so every year they get a wreath. I started putting all those GPS coordinates in there, so it'll make our job a little easier next year when we go to put the wreaths in. I can just
when it's all snow.
Yes, when we got a foot of snow and it's a flush stone, you start just kicking around trying to find it. You can at least do the GPS coordinates and get you in the ballpark now. That's something I can think of for the community outreach, but.
Yeah, I really can't think of, besides just letting the folks know that if you are interested in genealogy or interested in that funeral homes, cemeteries, libraries have a lot of records for their community. If a funeral home goes under or sells completely, a lot of those records probably go to the township or the library. The library has a lot of really awesome, accessible information. So, I think maybe to conclude, yeah, maybe to conclude is use the resources in your community, and there are resources that you wouldn't realize could be resources like a cemetery or a funeral home. We're happy to help and be of service, and it's pretty cool, I
mean, I'll speak from my perspective and from our office managers. They get into it.
Yeah.
They, sometimes they put them like a mystery, and they'll get on it and they'll start looking around.
Like a dog with a bone.
Yeah. We have old records that they'll start pouring through the old stuff, and
because it's cool.
Oh yeah, it's like a big treasure hunt.
Yeah,
it's fun.
And that's what the library is awesome too. Like really utilize our public libraries, folks, because what a treasure. What a treasure those places are.
You sponsored?
We could be. If you want to sponsor us, we will love that. Public libraries.
Man.
Do you have a library card?
God, no. I used to when I was a little kid.
The travesty.
Do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
In your hometown or this new area you're in?
I have one in my hometown.
Not the new
but
place.
I'm pretty sure that they're
Reciprocal?
not universal.
I wouldn't think so, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. I'm gonna go get one though, and everybody else should too.
I used to go to my.
We could go together, maybe.
And do what?
Get library cards.
Don't say read. Oh.
We could do that too. It won't hurt you.
All right, yeah, let's do it. You let me know when. I'll meet you there.
All right. Anything else you want to
good.
disclose? Talk about?
Trying to think of anything else for genealogy, but get out there, folks.
Yeah, get out there. Read. Do some genealogy stuff.
Yeah. Ask questions.
Be interested in the past because you never know what it's going to tell the future.
Visit a cemetery.
So rude, interrupting me.
Yeah, I'm trying to fall apart here.
You can't even talk.
Visit a cemetery and just wander around and look at and read the stones.
Ooh, what would be really fun? Maybe this will be like, I don't know, a little side quest for our viewers is find us on social media, go to a cemetery, and take a picture of your favorite like headstone or statue. Like, would love to see what everybody's, different style or perspective is.
Push this, the Dying to Share podcast at gmail.com.
And we also have Instagram and Facebook as well. So look us up. Send us what your favorite headstone and statues are. We'd be super interested to see them and maybe even share some if we like them too. But only if we like them.
If you don't see it, then we did not care for it.
We hated it.
Yeah, now you know. But thank you again, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
And we will...
And let's say it at the same time, in unison, like a team.
Keep it real.
Keep it real. Oh, we are a horrible team.